Bonjour à tous.
Good afternoon.
Je suis ravie
It's my pleasure to be with you and to chair this second working session at Fira. My name is Nicole Ouvrard. I am in charge of editing at the Agra agency specialized in agroeconomics, and last year we launched a newsletter entitled Agra Up, dedicated to farming startups. We did so because we realized that startups were disrupting the markets and the existing techniques, and that they were highly valuable to supply updated information. It's it's a monthly or bi-monthly rather magazine newsletter, and you have got some samples outside the hall, and you can register and get this newsletter on a regular basis. So we're going to start this working session entitled How Does Robotic Work in the Field? This morning we heard that robotics was raising lots of philosophical issues in terms of what the part to be played by man in the future. And but it also raises accountability, liability issues, and we will discuss this together with Coralie Boss from Groupama Insurance Company. We will also be discussing the organization of farming robotics with Jean-Michel Lebras, who is presiding over this association, and Roland Lenain, who will discuss this issue. And we will first listen to Mr. From the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, and is going to address the drivers for the development of farming robotics. You've got the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah. Okay, so thank you for inviting me here. It's really exciting to see so many people gathered in and discussing agricultural robotics. I don't think we see that very much. So I think it's very nice and probably, hopefully, a nice starting point for a lot of collaboration. So I will talk about what we are working with in the area of agricultural robotics in Norway. I am at Norwegian University of Life Sciences. That's where we have most of our activity. I'm also at the University of Lincoln. So I will talk a little bit about what we're doing in collaboration and how we work on getting robots out into the field. So we're very focused on getting the robots out there. So I will give some examples of what we're doing and how we do it, and also how we use the startup companies, both in Norway, Saga Robotics, and in the UK, CBS, to get these robots out into the field as soon as possible. So what we're doing in Norway is that we develop agricultural robots. It's a modular robot, so it can be used in a wide variety of areas and fields. So the robots that we developed are currently being employed in open fields, in greenhouses, and in tunnels. All the robots are built and being developed in Norway. We have developed quite a few different types of robots over the years. Most of the activity have been going on for like 3 to 4 years now. So we've been going on for quite some time and developed some of these robots that you can see here. So I will say a little bit about how we work to get these robots out into the field, a little bit on the background of agricultural robotics and how we see this as a novel and interesting area. And I will also give some specific examples on what we work with and how we do that in Norway. So the main problem that we all work with is, how can we produce more food and how can we do that better than we do it today? So the question is if this is the right way to produce the food that we do today. We're definitely very reliant on all of these large equipment that Simon Blackmore talked about earlier today, and that's also the reason, or one of the reasons, that we have this huge increase in production in the agricultural sectors. I don't think there's any sector that's comparable in size that can show for the same increase in productivity as agriculture. So, and this is, the reason that we can be as many people as we are in the world today, and that we can have the living standards that we have. But of course, this comes at an expense that we've already seen today of other things in agriculture. So these big machines, they're the reason that the productivity in agriculture, per hour has increased a lot over the last decades or centuries. But the size of the machineries, as we've already seen, also comes with a drawback, and that is that the productivity per area, per square meter or per acre, is reduced quite a lot. And we can see that because we know that the industrial agriculture in the world today, they use 70% of the land, but only produce 30% of the food that we eat. But at the same time, the small-scale agriculture only uses 30% of the land, but produces 70% of the food that we eat. And that tells us that there must be some way that we can sort of exploit the way that small-scale farmers produce food. So, in my opinion, I think we need to get back to the way we used to produce food. But at the same time, we can't go back to the ages where 80 or 90% of us were farmers. So that's why we think that agricultural robotics will be essential to obtain this increased productivity and also maintain the productivity of each and every farmer. So I think technology will be very, very important. We see that from 1970 to 2016, we have a huge increase in the productivity, in how much we produce per acre. Up until 2050, we need to increase that a lot more. We will be 9 billion people. That's a lot of people, and we want to eat more and better food. So we need to get to achieve this increase in one way or another. And I think technology will be an important way to achieve this. And if we see that, if we look at what kinds of technology are available or can contribute to this increase, there are sort of two main things. The first is related to precision. So we need more precision in the way that we produce food. We need precision fertilization, precision irrigation, precision spraying, and so on. And the second part is related to compaction. So we need to reduce the size of the machinery to increase the yield. And of course, if we put these two together, small machines and precise machines, okay, what do we get? Well, we get an agricultural robot. So that's why I believe that technology, and in particular robots, will play a very important role for us to achieve this goal. So that's what we believe and we work with. So we've been working with this for quite some time. These are just some of the examples that we have been playing around with for the last 4 or 5 years. Some of these are sort of industrial type robots ready for production, operating in the field. Others are definitely prototypes still. And here you can see some of the different ones. Okay, so this is just students playing around in the field, see what if they can damage the robot. And so there are a lot of different tools that we put on these robots. We try to test out the robots in a wide variety of fields and see sort of what are the limitations, what are the possibilities of these robots. So we travel around quite a lot. This is an example of a 300 kilo measurement device for soil moisture. This is the phenotyping robot. In this case, we measure the compaction in the field. So it's just sampling and looking into the quality of the soil, which also needs to be robotized if you want to do that in large areas, as we've already seen today. And quite a lot of tools. This is a strawberry production robot, so I will talk more about that. We also have quite a lot of phenotyping, in-field transportation, and some of these systems I will go into in some more detail. So we developed the robots. For us, the robot is just a thing with 4 wheels. The important thing is what you put on the robot, right? So we think of the robots as a tool carrier that we use to bring advanced technology into the field. So I will give some examples of what we are doing there. So for the first commercial products, we work with Saga Robotics, which is a startup company that spins out of the university. And we have some products that we've been working with already. The first one is related to strawberry production. So in Norway last year, strawberry farmers lost 48% of all the yield to fungus. So that's quite devastating for any farmer, as you can imagine. So we've been working with this autonomous robot. The robot is completely autonomous. It works at night. The farmer just tells it when to start, and the robot drives up and down the rows. And it applies a UV light to the strawberries. So this UV light, it has the effect that it completely eliminates all mildew on the strawberries. So mildew is one of the worst funguses that we have in Norway. So we're actually able to help the farmer by applying new types of technology, taking this technology, which in fact has been known for a long time, put it on an autonomous robot, and in that way use it in the field. So that the farmer can produce nice, healthy strawberries without the use of chemicals, and also is actually able to produce these strawberries because with the chemicals that the farmer is allowed to use in Norway today, the fungus is resistant to those chemicals, so that there's basically no way you can deal with this by spraying. We've done the same with cucumbers. We have cucumber farmers that heard about this project and wanted to test it as well. So we took the robot. The robot looks very differently, but it's actually the same modules. It's the same robot that we use in the field, just with minor modifications. This is also completely autonomous, so it finds its route in the greenhouse by its own. As you can see here, it moves to the next row. It doesn't necessarily take the path that we would take, but we let the robot sort of figure out what is the optimal path on its own. And we do that because we don't want to sit down and specifically control and tell the robot what to do. We want to implement some kind of intelligence into the robot so that it can take its own decision. So what we're testing out here is that we're trying to test out very low-cost sensors. So the sensors on this robot is about $500. So, and we try to use only these low-cost sensors to do all the navigation. So, yeah, So what we do then is that the main challenge is to find the rails. We need to get onto the rails. We need to localize the rails and make sure that we're actually spot on the rails. And then we do that, move on to the rails, and then move down, turn on the UV lights. And we do this 2 or 3 times every week at night, applying this light to the cucumber plants. And that works amazingly. So we haven't had any outbreaks of mildew in this area yet. We're still early in the season, but it looks very, very promising. So that's just one very simple example of how I believe that robotics can be applied into the field. It's important that we use robots to sort of facilitate the use of other advanced technologies and take that out into the field. This is another project that we've been working quite a lot with. It comes as a direct result of Brexit. So we've been contacted by strawberry producers in the UK. They want us to do the strawberry harvesting. We've told them that, well, we can't harvest the strawberries for you. It's not realistic that we'll be able to make a system that can do that in 1 or 2 years. But what we can do is that we can do the in-field transportation. So for strawberry harvesters, they use 20 to 40% of their time just carrying cases. It's quite long distances, so a lot of the time is just carrying and walking. And if we can eliminate that, we can actually reduce the dependency of labor for these farmers. So in the UK this year, 10% of all strawberries remained on the plant because they didn't have people to pick the strawberries. And that's before we have the effect of Brexit. So I think these kind of systems to reduce the dependency of labor will be very, very important. So this is the project that we have with on berry production, on in-field transportation. It's a fairly large project. We have the University in Norway and the UK, and funded both on the Norwegian and the UK side. What we're trying to do here is that we have quite a lot of funding, quite a few people, but we try to put all of those people into solving relatively simple tasks. So we don't want to solve sort of very complicated tasks. We just want to solve simple tasks that can help the farmer and can help us get the robots out into the field. So we only work on 2 things: in-field transportation and UV treatment. So I think by selecting 2 relatively simple tasks will help us getting these robots out into the field. So we had quite a few robots out there this year, and we'll have even more next year. So I think we're getting close to 50 people working full-time on this project now. So that means that we will get results quickly and get the robots out there fairly soon. So we focus until now much on making the robots, making a proper agricultural robot that can work in different areas. And right now we're working more on the autonomy intelligence, making the robots robust and safe so that they can work for hours and hours without any kind of breakdowns, without any need of attentions from us or the farmers. And then we're moving into other areas, like more into agronomy and so on with time. So, yeah, so yesterday actually we got this picture from Norway, so we shipped off the first batch of robots to the UK. So that will be very, very interesting to see how they will be welcome and how they will deal with just receiving those robots and putting those into the field in the UK. So that's quite exciting. So a little bit more into the future, what we're working on. The topics that I've mentioned now is what we have in the field, what we are already sort of offering as a service to the farmer. We also have other projects in the loop, of course. We work a lot on machine learning, artificial intelligence, and machine vision. So this is a project from University of Lincoln. So we use machine learning to try to identify, first of all, the broccolis. This is a broccoli field. So we identify the broccolis, try to count the broccolis, try to say how big they are and when they will be ready for harvesting, for example. And we want to use that as an input to the farmer so that he can plan how many workers he will need. So broccoli is still harvested by hand. So for this broccoli farmer, he needs about 70 people who fly in from Asia somewhere to harvest broccoli during the season. So of course he wants to, if he can plan for how many workers he needs at each time throughout the season, he can hopefully reduce the number of people he needs to fly in from Asia. We do the same with strawberries. We have the robots out there. The robots are operating in the field day and night. So why not just put a $10 camera on the robot and see what we can do with that? So we're identifying the strawberries, trying to count them, trying to say when they will be ripe, ready for harvesting, and so on. We also have some projects on fruit manipulation, picking, harvesting. This is just an example from the lab. So what we're testing here is if we can identify the strawberry sufficiently accurate to be able to pick it. We'll definitely not pick strawberries in this way in the future. We have a different gripper now that we use. You don't want to touch the strawberries when you harvest them, but just to verify that we can actually identify the strawberries, and then we take this out into the field and see what we can do. So we focus a lot on commercializing what you do. I think that's very important. So we want to be sort of early in the market and creating value to the farmer. So the whole idea of what we're doing is to get as many robots out there as we can, but not more robots than we can handle. So I think we have 10 to 15 robots out there right now in research projects or in farms. And all of these, when we have all of these robots out there, that's what sort of makes us learn. So we build the robots. They're low-cost robots, so they're a lot cheaper than a tractor. And we ship them out there, and the farmers can actually buy these systems even if as a supplement to all the other systems that he has. So we have a lot of systems out there, and that's how we learn. And we learn a lot from being very close to the farmers. So we also have very close collaboration with universities. I think that's important. Most of the funding that we get from research projects and the universities. And I don't think we will be able to get all this funding if we didn't have this close collaboration with universities. So we're still a very small company. We're about 6 people in the UK, 6 people in Norway. But we also have sort of a development group of 20 to 30 postdocs and PhDs at the university working very closely with us on the development. So we have some public funding. We don't have any external investors yet, but we're starting to talk with external investors about what kind of funding we need to scale up the production. So we have finished the prototypes. We finished sort of the first industrial version of the robots, and we're now ready for scaling up. So we're a small team located in Norway, so we get to play around with the robots a little bit also in the winter. But at least we get to play around. It's great fun, and we get the robots out there. So I think the main message that sort of I have is that we work a lot on getting the robots out into the field, even if they're not completely ready, just to learn and get feedback from the farmers. The feedback from the farmers is definitely what we learn the most from. So I think that's about it, what I would like to say. So Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Paul.